Aston Villa have just lost their third game in a row, this time in the Champions League. Let's talk about it. The question for today is what is going on at Aston Villa? If you don't watch Villa, you saw last season how well we did. How many points we picked up, finished in the top four, made the semi-final in the Conference League. And then this season, we started okay, but it's now 1 win in 5, 2 wins in 8. It's not looking great. And here we've got match ratings for today. And as you can see, there's a lot of orange and yellow in the side. First, let's talk about Tyrone Mings. Now, this guy, I feel for him, actually, to be quite honest, because he's been away for a long time. He's been injured. He's had 2 starts. As you can see, he's played against Crystal Palace in the Cup, and he played against Club Brugge today in the Champions League. I don't actually think Mings has been that bad. I know a lot of people will say he's played 2 games and we lost them both, but I don't think he's not been terrible. However, as you're probably aware, he did make a horrendous mistake in the Villa game. Some people tell me it's not a handball or it's harsh, and yes, it did happen to Arsenal, and they did get away with it against Bayern Munich. But the fact is, it is a penalty. If he doesn't think Martinez has taken the free kick, would it not be easier to pass him the ball with your feet than to bend over, bend down, pick the ball up and give it to him? When, you do run the risk of handball. I just think it's a lapse in concentration for Tyrone Mings, and it's probably because he's been out for so long. I don't just blame Tyrone Mings for the reason why we lost. We didn't score any goals against Club Brugge, despite the fact they lost 3-0 to Borussia Dortmund not that long ago in the same stadium. You do, however, have certain players you can definitely look at and see a contrast between this season and last season. Leon Bailey is a perfect example of that. As you can see, Bailey, he didn't play very well against Club Brugge, but hasn't scored a goal this season. You can scroll all the way, even to the opening game against West Ham. He hasn't scored a Premier League goal this season. Contrast that to last season. As you can see, he scored 10 goals in 35 games with 9 assists. He's got nearly a quarter of the games from last season already done this year. And he hasn't scored and only has 2 assists. I think there is a little bit of a drop-off with Bailey. And maybe that's down to Diaby leaving. As Moussa Diaby last season, Leon Bailey, they both played in the same position and they both pushed each other to compete. Maybe with Bailey being on his own now, with Diaby going to Saudi, maybe there's less pressure to perform. We're seeing games where his touch isn't great and his decision making hasn't been great. And it's very frustrating as a Villa fan to see this happen. Today against Club Brugge, very ineffective. Very surprised he played the full 90. Another example of starting to be a poor season, Ollie Watkins. As you can see, Ollie Watkins didn't score against Bruges, played terribly against Tottenham. He missed a massive chance to make it 2-0 and then had a chance later in the game to square the ball to Duran for him to score, which he didn't do, and Villa ultimately lost 4-1. But again, Bournemouth doesn't score. Bologna in the Champions League, Duran scores, comes off. He does only have 25 minutes, but, very ineffective, doesn't do much in that game. Does grab a goal against Fulham. As you can see, that's just 1 goal in his last 9 games in all competitions for all teams. We once again compare that to last season, where Ollie Watkins scored 19 goals in 37 games for Aston Villa with 13 assists. He got the most assists in the entire Premier League last year. So far, only 2. Another issue for Villa this season, clean sheets. The last time Aston Villa got a clean sheet was against this man. And we all know what happened to him. 1 clean sheet in the Premier League this season. For a side that has very good defenders, we've got a Champions League finalist in Maatsen last season. We've got Pau Torres, who was very good for Villarreal. And yet defensively, we've just not been that great this season. Another criticism I think I will make is the fact that we rested players in the Carabao Cup against Crystal Palace. As you can see, Joe Gauchi started. It was his first start for Aston Villa. Nedeljkovic at fullback, where Matty Cash will usually play, or at least an out-of-position Konza. Tyrone Mings played his first game back from injury. He's been out for over a year. Matson started ahead of Digne, which is obviously very rare, as Digne has played pretty much every game at left back. Emi Buendia, again, back from injury, back starting, and no Ollie Watkins up front, and even an academy winger. It was a very, very changed Villa side. We basically sacrificed the cup just to have fit players for Tottenham. And we sacrificed the cup for this scoreline against Spurs. Now, admittedly, we played well in the first half. We took a 1-0 lead. I think Spurs, despite having a lot of possession in the first half, 54%, no shots on target. I thought Villa were arguably the better side. Second half was a completely different story. Villa may have had more of the ball in the second half. I think that's the only compliment you can give Villa in the second half. No shots on target, and we conceded 4 goals. Matty Cash, I'm usually one of his biggest haters. I don't think Cash is good enough for Villa. Cash is arguably the only good defender in that game. I thought he did okay against Son. Son put a good cross in for their equaliser, but apart from that, I don't think Cash had a bad game. Cons are out of position for Tottenham's second goal as we tried to play a high line offside trap, and then Pau Torres giving the ball away horribly for their third goal. It was an absolute mess at the back, and for a side that is usually quite level-headed, we conceded 4 minutes from half-time, conceded in the 75th minute, 4 minutes after that, and then we couldn't even hold on for the last 10 minutes and keep it at least respectable. We conceded a very late free kick to James Maddison. We sacrificed the cup for that. I'll go back to Bournemouth. We missed some chances in that game. Duran probably should have made it 1-0 before a very scrappy Ross Barkley goal. What did we go and do? With seconds remaining, Evan Nilsson scores. And I'm sat there wondering how we've let this slip. We conceded 3 free kicks in injury time, just inviting pressure. They had the goalkeeper forward from the free kick, and no one defends the near post. Awful defensive work and terrible game management. I'll end this video here as well. I think despite this only being a draw, I think it's the worst result we've had. We made Man United look like an actual half-decent defensive unit. We made Johnny Evans man of the match. This guy should have retired 3 years ago. This guy had more passion than any of our team that day. And they could still be playing now and they wouldn't have scored. Bear in mind, their manager got sacked not long after this. And we still couldn't beat them. So to sum it up, defensively, we've been shocking. Individual performances have really let us down. Carlos away at Ipswich is a great example of that. Pau Torres is usually quite composed. Awful passing against Spurs. Konza, I mean, someone who's usually quite reliable, making silly mistakes. And this seems to be happening almost every single game. Today, like I said, Tyrone Mings picking up the ball in his own box is stupid, and it cost us the result. I don't care if people want to tell me he didn't think the free kick was taken. He's got to switch on. There's no excuse. Certain attacking players just having a complete fall-off from last season, like Leon Bailey, like Ollie Watkins, and I know he did very well last season, but it doesn't give him an excuse to not perform in most games this season. John Duran should start against Liverpool. I actually feel sorry for Duran because I think he's had to save us so many times. We can't act like he's a superhero coming to save the day at Villa every single week. If this continues, we're going to slip down the table real fast. We're lucky we started the Champions League so well with 3 wins in 3. And we played so well against Bayern. Where was the Bayern? The Bayern performance is such an outlier for this season. It's such an anomalous result for this season. Because that game, we defended resolutely and we actually earned 3 points. We battled, worked as a team, and were brilliant. Not seen much of that this season. I don't get it. I don't understand. Now, I love Unai. I think Unai has been amazing for this club. And I don't think it's necessarily been him that has caused these issues. I think it's just players around his system not doing their jobs properly. And sometimes football can just be that simple. It's your individual battles that you're losing. And right now, we look a bit toothless. Villa play away at Liverpool, and I just don't see a world we get anything. I want to be proven wrong. But with the international break coming soon, I think it will be a good time for Villa just to have a bit of a reset and go again. Because this has been a dismal last few weeks. Thank you all for watching. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. If you agree with me or even disagree, let me know. Let's have a conversation. Thank you all for watching, and up the Villa.